Morning. This is Karumbi Davis of Karumbi Realty International, and we have Jane Goodsill visiting us again on her book, Voices of Hawaii, which is the subtitle for this book is Preserving Island Culture One Story at a Time. And we've had Jane a few times, and we continue to have her because there's so many neat little stories in her book that I absolutely love. I've lived here 36 years now, and I remember when I first came to the islands, I thought, how could anyone live on the island for that long? And guess what? I have. It's amazing, and just love it here. And what we'd be talking about is subtitles humor for children. And you know, when I first came here, there was a lot of comedy clubs actually, and one of the people you had in your book was Frank DeLima, of course, and his comedy routines. And you're going to read from his book, and that's really special to me because I must admit, when I first arrived to Hawaii, that's whose comedy shows I went to.
Oh, I love it.
I know.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I loved it very much so.
Oh, great. Okay, not quite yet. Okay. I want to say that I have a number of friends who are artists, and I asked them if they would contribute to the book, and they all said yes. This is Jane Taylor, who lives on the Big Island of Hawaii, and this is the front page that I used for. It's called Voices of Hawaii, but this is Voices of Families. And that's the picture I used to begin the page. So this little section with Frank DeLima is called Humor for Children. And you have to forgive me because he's Portuguese and he really does know how to speak all kinds of great pidgin. And I'm just going to do the best I can. So if it sounds stupid, go with me. Okay, so why don't you show the picture of Frank?
Sure. And you know, it's funny when we talk about pidgin, I wanted to share with you, when I first started in real estate, you know, one of the things that makes you really successful in real estate or any business is getting on the phone, talking to people or calling people. And we used to cold call a friend of mine, and we'd be calling from 6 to 8 p.m. And this is many years ago. And she would put on pidgin when the person on the other end of the phone had a pidgin, you know, that real local voice. And I just used to crack up. You know, I was just a few years into being in Hawaii from Australia, and next thing my friend's talking this language I couldn't even understand. So it's funny.
Did it work for her?
Oh yeah, she got many listings. She could change her voice depending on who she was talking to. It was very interesting.
Frank said most of his humor related to talking about different ethnicities. And he said, I interviewed him in 2019 maybe, and he said, it's become so hard because you can hardly say anything without getting in trouble.
Oh, yes.
He said in the old days, everybody thought it was hilarious.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden they're all...
Yeah, different times.
So he said it's truck. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about his story, and some of your readers may remember his skits. So here we go. This is how long it is. 3.5. Frank says, I have a special place in my heart for children, possibly because I was a shy boy with an active imagination. Because I can be childlike myself, I have a way of reaching children. I use a different kind of humor for the kindergartners than for the third graders. I ask them to sing with me and mimic my movements as we imagine we are going on a Buddha hunt. What means going on a pig hunt, right?
Yeah.
With 4th through 8th graders, I dress up as a sumo wrestler and come out to the rhythm and music of boom, boom, pow, boom, boom, pow. And they begin giggling. I have characters like the shy guy, the bully, the imp, and the strong guys. I use humor to teach them about the kinds of children they will run into and how to deal with them. The kids seem to respond well to this method of teaching. In my school, my attention deficit mind was always on something else. And everybody who reads this who has ADD says, yeah, that's me. So this is what he says. All it would take was for the sister, the nun, to point to the map and say, today we're going to go to Japan. Right then I'd think about my Japanese neighbors, the Yonoshigis, and the Nanibushi Man radio show. She may have taught us all about Japan, but I was lost in my own imagination. I created my own history of Japan, complete with characters and plots of my own devising. I first heard the song Mr. Sancholi when I was a kid. My childhood babysitter was Mrs. Lee, who had a lychee tree. So in my mind, the song became Mr. Sancholi, yet one lychee tree. That song on my album is A Taste of Malasadas. The taxi company called me one day and said, you're going to do an old lady, a tutu. They had the idea to dress me as a tutu, grandmother, and call a cab for a ride. Their phone number was 422-2222. Their TV commercials featured 3 tutus, so I'd dress as one and film her, and the second, and finally the third. They would splice them all together as if we were in the same room talking to each other. Each tutu needed to be different in voice, look, clothing, and personality, which was a great creative challenge for me. Whenever I get to wondering what kind of an impact I am having on children, something like this happens. I pull up to a stop sign, and there are workmen digging a hole. They are big local boys with hard hats. One of them looks at me and says, "Frank de Lima?" And I said, "Yes." He sings out, "Going on a Buddha hunt." And the crew working with him all chime in, grown men singing this children's song. Another time I went to Straub Clinic to get a blood test. I saw this kid and he said, "You look young." No, sorry. I saw this kid and I said, "You look young. I don't know if I trust you with my vein." He laughed and said, "How old are you?" I said, "How old are you?" And he said, 26. I said, "You're going to love this vein. Look at this vein. Nice vein, yeah?" In a formal tone, he asked, "What's your name?" I say, "Frank de Lima." "Your birth date?" "July 18, 1949. He puts a needle in my arm, and when the blood is flowing, he breaks into song. Peanut, peanut butter, jelly. He said, "I remember you from kindergarten, first grade, second grade." And then he started doing the skits I did for his class all the way through 8th grade.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
One day on an island air flight to Kona on the Big Island, I was in the front seat and the flight attendant pulled up the jump seat facing us. The plane is going up and she starts quietly singing and clapping on her legs, "Going on a Buddha hunt." She was good. My assistant and I cracked up laughing every single time that happens, and it happens a lot. I just don't expect it. And then bam, there it is.
How wonderful is that? You know, it's so funny to have influenced the children as those children get older, like all of us, and people still remember those catchy phrases.
They do. There's something else I should add about Frank is that he began a student enrichment program, which he funded himself, and he goes from one end of the state to the other end of the state, taking 2 years to complete, and he goes to every single elementary school.
Wow.
And presents, teaching them these things about.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
No,
it's very touching.
Very touching. Well, I just, you know, I mean, he definitely would. I remember Frank de Lima when I first came to the islands, and they were very catchy songs. And as I said, I remember when I first started in real estate, you know, people would definitely go into their pitch and to get business.
It's kind of tricky though, because if you're not local, it can be pretty.
I didn't try.
It's probably better.
Not with my Australian
I probably shouldn't try either, but I can't help it every now and again.
No. Well, thank you again for being with us today. It's delightful.
My pleasure.
And look forward to our next reading.
Me too.